Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Table podcast. I am your host, Pastor Mike, and I got my co host here, Steven, along with my boy Eric. So, thank you guys for joining me again. Before I introduce our guest, I want to repeat myself again of why we're actually chose to do this season. Very touchy topic of church hurt, but the main thing are the first one is to expose the enemy. So, we want to do that, the things that have been done in the dark we want to actually expose. So we're doing that on these episodes. Number two is we want to give a platform for people to speak. We want them to be able to share their story. And we're hoping for those of you watching that if you have something you've been through, you actually come forth and let these stories inspire you to speak up for what's happened to you. And then the third thing, we want to help people get healed and we want to help people get set free. So at the end of this video, we encourage y'all watch it all the way through because there's going to be a promotional video at the end. We have in our ministry what's called an awakening. It's going to come out in May of 2023 when we go. So please, there's going to be details there for you guys to sign up. And so you guys can attend that and help get healed because of what's happened to you in your past. So we're going to switch gears here, and we want to introduce our guest. So Espy is her name. So thank you, sister, for doing this episode with us and coming along here. So to get started, we just want to ask first initial question to you. So how did you find out about the church, PTM, and what was your first initial experience when you got there, and who invited you to come?
Um, my husband and I were in a really bad place, and we had a friend that we used to hang out with, and he, we saw that his life had changed like drastically,
Mm-hmm.
and we needed, or we were looking for something different because, like I said, we were in a bad place. And he kept inviting us over and over and over to church, and the first few times we didn't really want to go because it's church, and
Yeah.
um, we ended up showing up on a Wednesday, and literally that Wednesday we got saved.
Amen. That's awesome. So you don't want to share who the person that invited you?
It was Rudy.
It was Rudy?
Yeah,
Okay,
Rudy
awesome.
Roo.
Shout out to Rudy Roo. Shout out to you,
Lord.
man.
it was Rudy.
Okay, so how many, what year was that when you actually came? Do you remember?
2018, I believe.
2018? Okay. And
Dang.
yeah, so when did things, when you first came, I mean, you got saved, you got touched by God, things were going well for you, and then when did things kind of start turning for you, or you started noticing things?
Well, like I said, everything was really good. We got saved like right away. The that Sunday we went back, and after church, you said to give it 3 months, and
Mm-hmm.
if in 3 months we didn't see anything different in our lives, that we could go back to whatever we were doing. And at the moment, I feel like I really didn't have anything to lose because it was bad. So I did. I was like, okay, well, 3 months and that's it. Let's be weird because I always thought church people were weird. So let's be weird for 3 months. And we did. We committed for 3 months, and those 3 months were like our honeymoon season, right? Everything was
Amen.
great. I was delivered without even knowing what deliverance was. I immediately stopped doing drugs, which was something that I had tried over and over and over, and I just couldn't get off of it. And I was delivered, or my marriage was like great with that, and it hadn't been great in a long time.
Wow.
Amen.
We started serving. The kids really liked it because they saw the change that was kind of going on in our family and stuff, and they also noticed that we were sober, and I hadn't been sober since I was 10.
Wow.
So it was a very big,
So it was life
change.
changing.
Very much so for everyone, like all of us. It was
Mm.
it was great for a while. I think I don't remember exactly when it started changing. I just know that we kind of hit a season where Anthony felt well. Actually, going back, when we first met David, Anthony told me that he felt something off with him.
Mm.
When we met David,
This was
he
from the
kept
beginning,
from the
or?
very beginning.
Oh, wow. Okay.
David was like he went. You know how you go to church and then you go and meet the pastors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
David was like, I know you from somewhere, and I told him I don't think so. He's like, yeah, I know you, and he just kept saying that he knew me, And Anthony got annoyed, and he's like, "No, you don't know her. Like, she's never been here. You don't know her."
Yeah.
And he told me, like, there's something weird about him, but we needed the change, and everything was great. So we just kind of disregarded what we
Yeah.
felt. After a while, we started feeling like, because like I said, we committed. Like, we really, really committed. We were reading our Bible every day. I had a prayer closet. We were really trying to, be consistent with the Lord. And after a while, I started feeling like there was something different. There was something more. And we were told when when I mentioned it to Donis, because Donis and I started kind of getting close. We were told that no, God saved you here, so it's stupid for Him to send you somewhere else. So there's nothing more. And
This
I
is
was,
it. This is it.
yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna serve here. This is what we're gonna stay. And eventually, that feeling wouldn't go away. So I mentioned it to Anthony, and Anthony told me, dude, I've been feeling like that for about 3 months. I remember he said
Oh wow.
that he had been feeling like that for 3 months, that there was something more, that there was just something off. I remember specifically one service that David and Carol did that they took out this wallet and they were like, take out your wallet. And the Lord told me that He was going to bless it. And I had literally heard that same preaching with Guillermo Maldonado in one of his YouTube videos. So we were like, man, that was weird. But, you don't question it because we were good there and we hadn't been good in a while. So we started kind of God is so funny. He actually we got introduced to like a different church, and we experienced some like breakthroughs with this other church.
Yeah.
When David found out that we were going to something else, he just kind of rebuked us. But I remember that it was kind of a conversation like, I don't know if it was because people were kind of younger in the ministry, and when he kind of, my attitude is kind of off sometimes. So when he came at me, like just demanding that no, you can't be like you need my permission to go somewhere else. And
Oh wow.
I remember telling him like, I'm not one of these kids.
Good question. He didn't go to your husband. He went to you.
Yeah,
Wow.
he was like, I'm not one of these kids that like I'm a whole married woman. Like you're not. I don't need your permission to go anywhere else. We're just going. We're experimenting and. We're still here on Sundays and we're
Yeah.
willing to
And,
serve. It's
and
okay.
for those of you watching, you do not need your pastor's permission to go visit a church. Okay, that's insane. So just
Yeah.
needed to say that.
But they were so like adamant about, this is where you got saved. This is where you need to
yes,
go.
they
Like,
drill it
was
into you.
Weird,
Yeah,
and
I
you
got you.
buy into that without realizing that, you're really believing it.
So if he kept feeling things were off, did he ever like, talk to you privately like, hey, this is what it is? Or he just kind of had a bad feeling? Or did he like actually pinpoint
Who?
stuff? Anthony.
Anthony? No, he didn't. He just
He
told
just kind
me
of had a
that,
gut feeling type of deal. Okay.
that there was something off. He always said that he felt like David was more about the money. That the pastor was Carol, that she was the one that had the calling, and David was just kind of along for the ride.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
He always told me that. But I mean, I felt like, no, these are my parents. Like, you don't say that,
You defended it.
Yes. You
I
don't
got you.
say that. These, they're not like that.
Yeah.
And he would point out a lot of stuff, but mainly it was that the calling was Carol's and David was just along because he was married to her.
Okay.
Yeah.
So since we're going through, like I was saying at the beginning, exposing the enemy, I know you had wrote some notes down. So you want to go through the first one of things that you feel you need to bring to the light?
I think the first thing was that I think immediately after we started like really committing, God would give me dreams, and my discernment had really grown. But David was very like when I would share with him about because at this point he started making me do cards for like welcome cards for like the new
yeah.
people and stuff. So he was constant with me like on Messenger. So whenever I had some like an experience with God or things like that, Carol was always so like unreachable, and it was easier to get a hold of David because he was constantly messaging me about what he needed me to do. And so I would be like, hey, so, I had this dream, or I had this feeling, or I had this revelation. And he would always like disregard it. He would always diminish it. He would always make it seem like God doesn't speak to you. God, that is not God.
He
That's
cast
you.
doubt
That's
type
your
of deal.
heart. Yeah.
Wow.
You need to check your heart. Or God wouldn't say things like that. That's not his character. And I never questioned him. I think one of the things that, kind of going back and thinking about everything, that was one of the things that I really wanted to highlight. Like, when you serve God, you serve, and when you say yes to God, you say yes to God. And he is not, he doesn't give himself in pieces. Like if he loves you and he talks to you and he gives you discernment because he wants you to be aware, I'm assuming. And I feel like if you have that feeling, or if you have any sort of doubt about anything, like the first person to go to should have been God. I feel like that's one of my mistakes, that instead of going to David for revelation or for approval or whatever it was, I should have really gone into my prayer closet and been like, what are you trying to tell me with this? I think that would have changed a whole lot.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one that you want to share?
No, I just kind of wrote how it happened. Like, I think after that, my husband and I, we kind of started having issues. And my go-to was like, I really felt like David and Carol were my parents. And my thing was like, go to them and they will help us fix whatever we need to fix, because that's how it was originally. And we did start doing counseling with them. So they knew our issues. They were very aware of what was going on at home. And I feel like David really took advantage of that. And Carol, at this point is when she found out that her mom had cancer. So she was even more unreachable. Like, I couldn't really get a hold of her. Something happened at home, and Anthony and I ended up splitting up. And we were still kind of talking because we were still going to church, but he was just not living in the house anymore. But we'd see each other at church because we would just not let it go. And that's when David started like, okay, well, I'm helping him and I'm helping you. And he started sending me messages. He would tell me that you don't need to talk to him right now. He's not in a good place. He's not good for you. He's not repentant. He would really talk like bad about him. And then, so I would stay away because Anthony would kind of look for me to have to talk things out or whatever. And I'd be like, no, because my pastor said I can't talk to you, which is the dumbest thing in the world. But I mean, that's where I was, so I'd be like, no, I can't talk to you. And eventually, like, some time passed, and Anthony, oh no, before all this happened, David would show up at my house like at midnight.
Pastor David?
Yes, David.
A
At
pastor
midnight.
showing up to your house
At midnight.
at midnight.
And when I would tell, and he would call me, and he'd be like, come
What
outside.
church they do that at?
She's told me this before. so-
PTM.
What?
PTM. So he would,
Unannounced, or he would.
no, he would call me and tell me, hey, I'm outside, come outside.
What?
What?
What do you want?
And, well, I'd
Pastor
go outside.
David.
I'd go outside.
Pastor David.
And he
Come
would-
on,
he
man.
would ju-
It's so crazy.
And he would tell me, oh, well, I'm just making sure you're not high. I'm just
What?
making sure you're not going backwards. Yeah. And, okay,
So he was there to look out for you.
to minister to
Yeah,
me.
to minister. Okay.
Yes.
At midnight.
how long-
Minister at midnight.
Would he try to go in the house, or would he just stay outside, or what would he do?
No, because my kids were home. He never tried to go in my house.
Yeah.
But I think it was because he knew my kids were home. And my kids weren't little. So he would call me, come outside. And he did that a few times. And every time that, at first I'd be like, okay. So I'd go outside.
How long would he stay at your house outside?
Dude, he'd start talking about bullshit. He'd start talking about, oh, Carol is not home. She's with her mom again. And he'd start venting with me.
Wow.
So I told him one time, like, I don't think this is appropriate. I think that you should go and talk to your wife about what's going on, or even Mike, because he's also the pastor, right? Like, I don't think it's appropriate for you to vent with me about your wife. And he he told me, "Oh, so you could come to us with your problems, but we can't come to you with ours?"
Dang, he just twisted.
And I'd be like, "No, Pastor, I'm so sorry." And dude, I would be so quick to be
And
like, "Dang,
he'll
it's my
prey on your
heart.
compassion.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, Lord. Help me with my heart, you know?"
Yes, dude.
Yeah, and he'd be so quick to switch it until and then it wouldn't be like it wasn't like an everyday thing that he'd show up. He'd show up randomly, but it was always like 11, 12, like just really, really late. And throughout the day, he would like message me, and it would start with, "Hey, so for church, I need you to edit this paper, or I need you to edit whatever cards, or like stuff like that that he needed me to do for church, or I need you to drop off some books and random stuff like that." And it would just be like, okay. And then he'd start like ministering about my family. You guys should really you should really take this time to work on yourself and find yourself, and don't have communication with Anthony. It's not healthy for you or the kids right now, and you don't want to be showing your kids that you're going back and forth, and so he would kind of take it into that. And then after that, he'd start like, "Oh, so I'm having issues with Carol, and she's always at her mom's house, she's not paying attention to me as a man." And I'd be like,
God.
"What do you mean as a man?"
Why is he telling
what
you
do
this?
mean? And we would kind of go back and forth like that. And then randomly he'd show up at my house again. Oh, and then he would tell me, because I'd still call him like Pastor David or whatever, or Pastor.
Yeah.
And he finally started telling me like, "No, just call me David. We're cool." And I was like, "Nah, that's really inappropriate. You're Pastor David." And he's like, "Nah, but we're cool, right? Like we're cool. We're cool. Call me David.
But
I
that
call
was-
you Espy."
Let me chime in real quick on that part because, dude, I noticed that as a trend. We even talked to Octavio about that, and all the girls that he had spoken to. The moment that they start saying, "Hey, Pastor Dave's," like, "No, just call me David."
Basically humanizing himself in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Taking
So
off
gross.
that, taking off the title so he can be on the same level as a member, which is
Yeah.
very inappropriate. So, before you go, so you talked about how the messages went for you, right? So, what were the messages like to your husband?
So eventually we ended up, Anthony just showed up at the house and he's like, "We're talking, woman." So I was like, okay. So he showed up and we started, talking about our issues, and then eventually we got into like how David told me like we shouldn't be talking or whatever. So he's like, "Hold on, that's not what he told me." And we like sat there and compared our messages, and he would tell me to kind of leave him alone. He didn't care about me or the kids, and he was selfish and all this stuff. And he was telling him how I was not a good woman, that I was probably out here going backwards and doing drugs again. And
Snake.
yeah, and he was like really just putting us against each other. Yeah, that was basically what he was telling him, and that he needed to focus on himself and work on himself, and kind of do things for himself for a while, and just let me be, leave me alone.
But looking back, you can see how he was casting doubt on him to push him away and
Yeah.
draw you
Yeah, it was so gross.
to himself.
Well, we saw it that day, because
Okay.
there was a lot of messages that he would send me, and I felt like, man, this is weird. Like that's not appropriate. But I didn't have anyone to talk to, because the only one that I was close to was Carol. She was freaking unreachable. The other one was Donna's, and she was weird as hell too. So I couldn't I didn't really have anyone to, like, "Hey, is this okay?"
Yeah.
And I was just kind of, but no. At this time, I have a friend who had recently gotten saved, and she was kind of reaching out to me to, for help or whatever. And she introduced me to her pastors, which they're in Florida. So I ended up asking them for like, "Hey, this is kind of," and I showed her like some of the messages and stuff. Like, "Is this normal?" And she told me, "Girl, run. He's not okay. He's not a good pastor. Run."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Run." Like, I can't run. It's my church home, Like, I can't do that. And it took me a while, But whenever I talk, Anthony and I talked, he I showed him the messages because I was like, hey, so a random question, like, is this appropriate or is it just me because I'm from the world, right? So is it just my heart? Because he'd be so quick to like when I would tell him, Pastor David, that's not okay. Like, you shouldn't talk to me about, your issues or whatever. You should probably talk to another, to Pastor Mike or your wife even. And he would like rebuke me. He would tell me, he'd be so quick to like, you think I'd be inappropriate with you? Like, you need to check yourself and check your heart. And then he'd really bring like the pastor out of him, I guess, to make me feel like, dang, it really is my heart. I'm sorry. And I'd end up apologizing. Like, I'm sorry for
Make
even
you feel like
thinking
it's
that.
you.
Yeah, like I'm the one with a problem.
And that same
So,
tactic that he used so far
Yes.
about divide and conquer, he used a lot, not only with marriages, but he also did that with single people. He will pull a brother to the side, talk about all these bad stuff that the girl that he likes, and do the same thing.
He wanted
You know what I'm
to keep
saying?
the girl that they
Because
liked.
yeah, and that's why you never saw anybody courting in church as much. You know, the only girls that were courting were girls that either had already, started dating on the low or whatever, and they were just like, I'm not getting apart from this guy, or the girls that didn't court were the people that he was really interested in, and he was prepping for. You know what I mean? And he wouldn't allow them to court.
Yeah. Yeah, he did that with us. And then after I showed Anthony the messages, Anthony was like, hell no, that's not normal. That's not okay. And he called Octavio because we understood that Octavio was above him and Carol. So we figured that he would be the one that he would be the one to help us.
So you guys are looking for help anywhere you guys could get it.
Yeah, and by this time, you had already left.
Okay.
Yeah, you had already left, and I remember that I asked you like, "Why are you leaving us?" And you just told us that it was just a season to do something different or whatever. And that's also one thing that I really hated. I feel like a lot of people left, and nobody told anybody anything. Like nobody brought it to light. Nobody said. I remember when we first started. I heard that there was a girl that she was being inappropriate with David, and that she actually showed up to the church, and that people were gonna like fight her and stuff. Because I always
I know who you're talking about,
Who was it?
the midget.
You can't say that, bro.
The short
What
one,
the heck?
the little girl.
I don't know who it is.
I'm not gonna
Okay,
say her
okay.
name to keep her identity, but she's short. Let's just say that.
Yo.
I don't know, but yeah, like no one really said. And I remember that we heard that there was something inappropriate, but we heard that she was the one that was like.
Was she a
obsessed.
victim or
I
was
don't-
she
I don't know
really?
who she was.
She was. How can I say this? It's very complicated. So there was kind of like a mutual, type of relationship in a sense of inappropriate conversation that
Okay.
caused them to sit down. Was it the third time or fourth time?
God,
You know what I mean? That they called everybody into the
Are you the
office.
one that
It was the day that you asked me, "Hey, I need you to preach on this Wednesday night because we're gonna have a meeting." And Octavio was there.
Oh,
and
no, yeah.
everybody-
Oh,
yeah.
okay. No, this was like maybe the third or fourth time. Yeah.
Okay, whatever, 50th time.
like
So
we heard that when we first.
Yeah, I
got
remember
there.
that. Okay,
yeah,
I know who you're
so
talking
yeah, so it was a mutual
In-
thing.
in that
He sent
case-
me that video.
Yeah, in that case, there was an actual video there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah, that was.
we
that was
heard
crazy.
that, and I remember that we actually talked to Anthony, and Anthony said like, well, that wasn't in our time. We're okay right now.
Yeah.
So we're just not gonna. But even like incidents after that, like no one
Spoke,
no one said
spoke
anything.
out, yeah.
No one said like, dude, he's tripping. Like no one said anything.
But you see how I guess I want to just say this, that we can kind of relate in essence that, I mean, when I first got there, since that was my home,
Yeah.
and I got saved there, so it's kind of like, well, you're my leader, you know what I mean? And you just kind of are all, I guess, gullible,
And
and
I
you
think
try to
we
learn
were
as you
really
go. So
taught to cover. Like we
Yeah.
really were taught to like, no, you cover him. You
Yeah.
you honor them, and it was like this deep honor. That I
Loyalty
think,
to the
I
core.
think it's almost like unhealthy. It has to be because
Yeah,
we
it
were
is
really like
unhealthy.
drilled
Yeah.
that you had to like it was this deep respect.
You know,
for
you
them.
know what's kind of funny is that David, like he would kind of scope out like any of the guys that he thought that
Intimidating.
no, he thought that they were like into the sisters, into the girls,
yes,
and then he would pull them into the room and like, hey, you're not gonna be a player here, do 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 do.
The first week, dog.
Like he would do that all the time.
We're not gonna play
But-
Baskin Robbins. That's what they said.
We're not gonna be tasting the 31 flavors of Christian
yeah.
ice cream.
Yeah, man.
And all along, he's like the whole player of the church.
Yes.
This guy is ridiculous.
He wanted all the
man.
flavors,
This
baby.
guy is ridiculous.
You know,
It's funny
I
to
remember
us,
one
but
time-
it is serious.
Sad, but
Yeah.
it's just horrible how.
This guy's terrible.
Yeah, so if you've been hurt, we're not laughing at that. Sorry.
No,
it's just the
no.
fact that
This guy is so
this dude-
terrible. It's-
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
ridiculous.
Let me just for the
I
record.
remember one time because we were doing counseling with them, and Carol had to step out, and then David's. It makes my stomach sick. He sat back in this chair, and he was like, "So how's your sex life?" And
Whoa.
Anthony was like, "What?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I mean, because you guys are a couple, so." I like to, grab my. And he started going
the-
into details, bro.
Holy
He started
moly.
going into details how he grabbed her, what he liked, and what kind of like. He said he was an ass man, and like yeah.
Dang!
And Anthony was like,
Pastors, if there's any pastors watching this, let us know in the comments if any of that advice, if any of that is any type of appropriate. Let us know in the comments.
and he, but he made it seem, dude, it's insane and it's funny, but nah.
Wow.
It's so sick.
So he said it like that, like I'm an ass man.
No.
Shut up, boy.
Yes. He showed me.
Yo.
Like, he did the hands and
I don't
everything.
cuss. I don't
Yeah.
cuss. I'm just saying what he said.
That's okay.
That's
That's-
so crazy.
The word ass is in the Bible. Okay.
I know. Yo, like he
He
said
like,
that.
James
no,
version.
he like did it with his hand and everything.
What was your husband?
And when Anthony was like, "Nah, man, we good." That's all he said. Because Anthony was like, "What the?" Like he.
So he kind of like
Cut it
put a
off.
boundary.
And then, he just kind of cut it off. And then when we walked out, I remember we were both kind of just serious. Like, so should we talk about our sex life? Like, was that the point of that conversation? And he was like, man, he's tripping. That's all he said. But he never
It's crazy how your husband knew
Yeah.
the boundaries, and he was just a member.
Today, before I came here, I called him and I was like, hey, so I'm going to talk on this podcast. And I just kind of wanted to get your input to see, like, what you remember that I don't.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that he said that he feels like he really needed to go with what he felt. Because since day one, he felt like there's something off with him. Why is he so like, I know you, I know you, I know you?
Yeah.
And he's like, I should have gone with that, and we should have just gone elsewhere or whatever.
So if I remember correctly, you said earlier that you started going in 2018, but I want to say it's probably around either late 2016 or 17, because I remember I got in a car accident in 2017, and your husband helped me. He towed my car. You know what I mean? And I think around 2018 is when you left, okay? The reason why I say 2018 is when you left is because I had met with a prophet, a real prophet, who told me what was going to happen at PTM. And I remember a week after, if not, I want to say the week after, David goes inside one of those meetings, the ones we always talk forever, you know what I mean? Then talk about nothing. He talked about how you were going to be the secretary.
Oh
And you never came back.
No, because I left.
Yeah. So I just,
Dude,
Shed some light on that.
Talking about that, I remember specifically, bro. One time they were doing, you know how at the end of the service we would start they would minister or whatever, and Carol's mom went up there and she got on stage and she started prophesying how the scales are gonna fall off the church and the scales and something about the scales in our eyes and all that stuff. And I kid you not, like weeks later is when everything blew up. And I was like, ha, there goes your scales.
Wow, yes.
Yeah.
She didn't know what she was prophesying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I remember that like vividly.
so at what time did you go to Eric?
So whenever we So whenever Anthony talked to Octavio, Octavio didn't say anything to him. He just told him, I'm gonna get back to you, and I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk to him. I'll get back to you.
So you reached out to Eric, and then we all went to the.
This was like after.
Oh, this was. Oh, okay.
This was after Anthony had reached out. So
Okay.
whenever he did that, David calls Anthony, and this nigga's crying, and he's like, I don't know how dare you.
Who, David?
Yeah.
David was crying?
Yeah. I don't know how dare you. Like, how could you put me in that situation? I would never disrespect you or your wife. We've helped you, and I'm actually outside, and this nigga shows up at the house, and he comes in my house. He takes Anthony to our backyard because he's like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, he was really mad at us. He was like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't even want to see you right now. You betrayed me after everything I've done for your kids. And I felt so bad because, again, I felt like, dang, what if it really is our heart and it's not
Yeah.
him?
He's
you
just using
know?
your guilt, man. Yeah.
So he takes Anthony to the backyard, and he's like crying, and Anthony started like tearing up. I think.
I mean, he could
Yes,
pretend
he
cry.
could put on a show.
He got them crocodile.
Yes.
Them crocodile
No,
tears
he
on lock.
turned on his tears like a faucet. He's
I
able to
think
do
he
that.
really
I'm
preys
telling
on
you.
the fact that we really like Anthony did too, because like I told you before I came here, I was really thinking about. Okay, fine, I admit it. It really did hurt me. Like, it really did hurt. Like, I really loved them. I really
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
like my dad had failed me, and he was like a man of God. And I remember that. I even have the picture. I deleted it because I wanted to burn it. I remember that, like, whenever he would lay hands and he would do like the father's blessing, like, dude, I would lose it because I felt like I really have a father's blessing now, because my dad never did that. So and I feel like Anthony felt the same way. Like, so whenever this dude was crying and,
Yeah.
like, I helped you for so long, now you have to help me get out of this. And, Anthony was like, yeah, man, I got you. So they came back inside, and Anthony's like, this is what we're going to do. Give me your phone. And he starts deleting all the messages. He deletes my messages. He deleted
The proof.
Right, the
he
evidence.
deleted
The
Anthony's
evidence.
messages,
Dang.
and he was like, "Don't worry about Carol. I'm gonna talk to her, and we're gonna fix this. We're gonna have a meeting with them. Don't talk to Octavio no more. We're gonna fix it." And I was like, "Okay." So
Let me
Oh.
hold on. Let me say something to the people. So, dude, when you see this is manipulation.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can't, dude. I just got reminded of the story of of King David. Dude, he sleeps with Bathsheba, and then he goes tries to cover it up.
Of course.
Tries to manipulate. Dude, you cannot manipulate. You need to repent.
Amen.
Repent is the answer, not manipulation. So
he didn't sleep with nobody though.
That boy should have been an
Just
actor.
to be clear.
To your point, when you were leaving, okay, I remember this very, very vividly. It was on a Wednesday night, all right? Because I know that your youngest daughter, and their daughter, Kathy, were very, very close. So she was always looking, where's that, So your husband came to church. You weren't there on a Wednesday night with a gun, all right?
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, he came with a blick. You know what I'm saying? He came in with a gun. You know what I'm saying? So, and
Was he a
has this-
security guard or no?
Who?
No.
The Anthony?
He's a tow driver. He's a tow truck driver.
Okay.
You
You know what I'm
I-
saying? Because we used to have security.
Yeah, I was at the door. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? I'm
okay.
the security because I was supposed to be David's
The
protection
security.
in a sense like this because supposedly he's a thug from the Southwest. So he needs
Who,
somebody
David?
else to watch his back.
That's why they
stuff,
gotta lock the doors all the
whatever.
time.
He has to lock.
Be a whole thug.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, your husband, he came to church with a gun, and I had to take it from him. And I think this was the night when David wasn't there. Okay, so I can only imagine.
Anthony is
would've went
really
down?
like he's and I don't even know if it's okay to kind of put it out there, but he's
a great
really
guy.
hurt.
He's a great
He's
guy.
really screw church and all the pastors in the world. Like he's really he was really hurt by him and Carol. He was really, really hurt. So I didn't know that, but
So did he come in wanting to use the gun, or what was the purpose? Or does he like
I just
carry
saw the
guns
look in
like
his
that?
eyes, and I can only imagine. You know what I'm saying? What could have happened, dude? But I took it from him.
did
you
he
know?
say anything to you?
No, he was just had this look on his face, and he kind of came up with some kind of, I don't remember, I don't want
It's
to lie.
'cause, you know,
I took
after
it from him.
everything came out, the kids also told us that this nigga would throw like things at their face. You know, remember when he? Oh,
Oh yeah, wait. Well, let me back up. I wanted to talk about that. But so every single Sunday, he would end up taking, them and the
teenagers.
teens into the room where we would have our Monday meetings at.
Okay.
So she's about to highlight stuff that he did there
Yeah, I wanna
with
hear
the
this.
kids. Yes,
He would
please.
he would throw things at their face and like humiliate them, and
Really?
he would ask them questions, and if you didn't know the answer, he'd like throw whatever he had in his face and like get in your face and stuff like that. And the kids never told me anything until everything came out. So
So it's
I
just
can
the
see
kids.
Anthony wanting
They
to.
were the teens. It was
The
teens.
You would
So
throw something physical at their face?
Yeah. Yeah.
with
yeah,
no
yeah.
like outside supervision, or
No,
it's
it was
just
just him and the teens.
And nobody said nothing? I didn't even know
Yeah,
this.
we didn't
The
know.
kids never said anything.
We didn't know anything either.
But I honestly think that it was the same
where,
thing.
where were
like-
the
like
teachers
we-
at?
Oh,
The
they were with the
teachers?
little ones.
Yeah, so they didn't have any teen teachers.
Oh, okay.
So he took it upon
He did
himself.
it. He did it himself, bro.
Even though he was supposed to be sitting down,
Yes.
he took it upon himself
He was
to start.
supposed to be sitting down like from ministry. Like he
Yeah,
was supposed to
after
be taking
what we
a.
talked about previously with the other
Yeah.
girl, he was supposed to be sitting down. He hasn't been called back to ministry. He kept blaming you for blocking his return to ministry. So he thought of a better way to
Yeah,
be
he didn't like you,
effective
bro.
is to corrupt our young teens. You know what I mean? So he brought them into the room,
That's crazy.
did whatever.
And he would
He
throw
would-
things in their
He
face
would throw things at their face and
for
stuff
getting the
like-
answer wrong.
Yeah.
Yo,
And
like
he'd like
what the
humiliate
heck?
them and stuff like that. Like
It's
he'd make them
uncalled for,
feel
man.
bad because they wouldn't know the answer to whatever the hell he was asking, and the kids never told us anything until afterwards. Krista was the one that said, "Mom, so like he did this to Nick a few times," and because Nick, my son, was like he was like really reserved and quiet and stuff. So if he wouldn't answer loud enough or anything like that, he'd like throw whatever he had. Or he said that if he didn't have anything around him to throw, he'd grab a piece of paper. Like, he always had his stupid notebook. He'd grab a piece of paper, like roll it up and.
So when this first
Swing it
came
on
out
that
to
fool, do that to
yeah,
somebody.
yes,
So
when you
I
first
don't see.
yeah, when you first when this first came to light, what was you and Anthony's initial reaction?
Well, I'm thinking that's why he showed up with a gun. But I just stopped going all around. Like I just didn't. I never went back to church.
It's horrible, man. Jesus.
Yeah. So like after he deleted the messages, we had that, I don't remember what day it was, but that Sunday we had a meeting with Carol. And like before the meeting, he called, and then Anthony called me on three-way, and he was like, "I'm gonna lead the meeting. We're good." Like he was coaching us to what to say. And I remember that I was just like, "I'm all right, I guess, whatever." And he's like, and I remember telling him like, "Dude, Carol's not dumb. Like she's not gonna ask me questions." And and he's like, "Don't make her out to be like you, Espy. She's not you." So I always thought, well, I'm crazy, right? So I would be the one to like, "Oh hell no, hold on," So I figured, well, and then he was the one that was gonna lead the conversation. He already talked to her, like we were good. And I remember I remember when he hung up. And I called Anthony, and I was like, "Dude, that doesn't sound right. Like, why do we have to? Why if it's nothing and he's not hiding anything, and like he said, those messages weren't inappropriate, then okay, let his wife see the freaking messages and let her tell me."
So let me
inappropriate.
summarize real quick. So he's over there doing stuff he's not supposed to be doing inappropriately, coming to your house at midnight to minister. All this comes to light, and then he ends up coming to you to coach you and makes you feel guilty, goes to the backyard, your husband Anthony starts crying, and then deletes the actual messages. And after he deletes them, then he coaches you on what to tell his wife.
Yeah. I don't want to say Anthony was crying because I don't want to put him out there like he's a little punk. But
I
you
got
know,
you.
but he was
He has a way to get to you.
But he was
Yeah.
really like upset. Yeah.
I
So
got you.
hold on, I have a
Crazy,
question.
man.
So before we get to the meeting, at any time did David make any like advancement? Like did he like, I guess, try to touch you or try to like, you know what I'm saying?
No.
No, okay.
I don't know.
So it's just all verbal.
The only time that he made me feel like, okay, was because when Anthony moved out, I decided to kick him out. And David showed up at my house like in the morning when I told
I was about
Anthony.
to ask that
Yeah.
question. Go ahead. About the time you went to your house in the morning. Yeah.
So he went to my house in the morning because I had just told Anthony like we were done. So he showed up and he wouldn't let me go to work. Like he was just very like, you're gonna take him back because I said that you need to take him back, and this is not okay. And I was like, no, like what he does is not okay. And we were kind of going back and forth, and I remember that he was sitting across from me, and then I was crying, right, because of everything. And then he came and he kind of hugged me, but it was like a weird hug. And I just remember kind of like, pushing him off of me. And I moved to the other seat, to the other couch. And then I kept telling him, like, I have to go to work. I have to go to work. And he just, like, we were there for a good, like, 2-3 hours because he just wouldn't. He needed me to tell him, okay. And then I finally ended up telling him, okay, I'm going to tell him to come home, but, I have to go to work. So that's what made him leave. And but besides that, it was never.
I guess it's a different incident. The incident I'm talking about is, didn't he try to come to your house in the morning and tell you get ready for church and all
Oh,
this stuff?
this was after, yeah.
This is after that. Can you
Did
talk
he-
about that?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was after because after oh my goodness. So after like after everything had happened, we had that meeting with Carol or whatnot. I didn't want to go anymore because I still felt I still had like my friend in Florida, tell me like, no, that's not okay. You need to leave that ministry and all this stuff, and or like bring it to light. And then but that day that he showed up in the morning, a friend from Austin was at my house because she had spent the night. And okay, so my friend from Florida kept telling me to like run, like leave the ministry, but I didn't know how. And I had expressed that to her name is Kelly. I'd expressed that to Kelly, like I don't know how to tell him because he's so pushy. Like he was so pushy. I remember that he was so pushy, and he would just and it's and he just wouldn't take no. Like he would find a way to kind of like make me, okay, fine, we'll I'll be there this Sunday, and I'd be there the Sunday or whatever, and it was just so weird. And when he showed up that morning, I wasn't at church. I wasn't planning to go to church, so he showed up at my house to tell me, you need to get ready for church. And my friend was at the house, and she's the one that came out and told him, hi, my name is Kelly. You need to go. I've never seen a pastor come do house calls without his wife. Where's your wife?
Wow.
And he was like, she like shook his hand, and he was like, I was just checking on her, and she was like, yeah, I've never seen that happen.
Wow.
I've been in ministry, and my pastor has never done a house call without his wife.
Boy, doing house calls.
And she was just like, he was like, well,
Sheesh.
can I talk to her outside? And she was like, we're ready for breakfast. The kids are hungry, and we need to come inside, so you need to go to church. And
Oh, that's so embarrassing for a pastor.
yeah.
Like,
So she's the one
embarrassing,
that
dude.
like I was just kind of quiet, and I was like, okay. So I we walked back in, and he left.
Jesus.
But she's the one that told him that.
Goodness.
Crazy. No, I wanted to move on the aspect of with the. I actually want to just read it. So when we were, what did he ask you? Some of the things to do with the paperwork. Were you like?
Yeah. So I was like.
Because let me
gonna
load
be
up
the
this real
admin.
quick while you're talking about that. Yeah.
I was gonna be the admin of the church, and he sent me a bunch of paperwork like from the church, and he needed me to edit some of it. I honestly don't remember exactly what I needed to.
Oh yeah. So there was.
do it.
So he sent you from what you had told me about the board. So every church needs to have obviously a board of directors, and needs to have an accountability board, needs to have what you call bylaws. Those need to be written in there. In the event something were to happen to the senior leader, there needs to be people over him that can step in and say, hey, you're out. You need to sit down. We're going to take over the church, and they call the shots. That person needs to willingly be able to do that. So when Espy sent this to me, I wanted to highlight this because I believe it's something that needs to be exposed, because you can actually do clauses inside of bylaws to descript them the way that it'll fit your actual church. So Pastor David, decided to do a little clause in here, and I'm going to read it to you. Okay, so it says this right here, which I highlighted. It says any board member related to the pastor, okay, by either marriage or blood shall not, okay, shall not, okay?
No.
Everybody get that? Shall not.
Shall not.
Okay, thank you. Shall not participate on the Senior Ministers Council review panel. Okay, so in layman's terms, let me explain what this means. So if anything were to happen to him where he does anything inappropriate, and the Bible says, do not entertain an accusation against an elder, 1 Timothy 5, unless it's brought by 2 or 3 witnesses. Brother, we had like 10 witnesses, you know? So there's a lot of them. So the Bible's clear that you're going to actually pay attention to it because more than one person is actually bringing it to your attention. But this is telling you though that whenever they're going to have the discussion behind closed doors of what's actually going to take place, of what decision they're going to make for this man, if anybody on there is related to him by marriage or by blood, they have no right in that say so. But yet, at the beginning of the conversation, she was telling us that the person that supposedly overseeing her was his
His brother-in-law.
brother-in-law. Sounds like somebody related, don't you think? Of course. So he actually scripted it in a way that could actually weasel his way out of something when it was going to be discussed behind closed doors.
That's insane.
Comments, Stephen? Eric?
Well, I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised.
Crazy.
This guy had no accountability. Even when he was under, what was this? The guy from Sin Muros?
Cesar Fajardo.
Oh, Cesar.
Yeah, he dropped him. You know what I mean? So, my episode, I'm going to talk about the encounter that I had with Octavio. You know,
Yeah.
but
So yeah, I'll move it along from here. Then I just wanted to highlight that part because I thought it was important.
yeah.
But so how are you doing now? Talk to us about now, or how. No, let me back up. How was it for you when you left up to this point? Kind of take us through your process from when you left up until present time.
When I left, I was still not sure. Like after all of that, I was still not sure that that I wanted to leave because I just felt like, okay, if we fix it, it's gonna be okay, and I'm still gonna have a home, you know. And
Like a church home?
yeah, like my family is still gonna be okay. Like I don't know, I still didn't want to leave, and I remembered that Eric and Elisa had left, and I respected them a lot. Like I really appreciated seeing them, and you know, like I thought about them. So I messaged Elisa, and I asked her like, "Hey, can I talk to your husband? I just have a question for him." So she sent me his number, and I called him, and I was like, "Hey, I don't even know how to start the conversation." And he's like, "Is it about church?" And I told him, "Yeah." And he's like, "I already know what happened." And I was like, "What happened?"
She's like, "What are you talking about?"
What do you mean? And he told me, he's like, "I just need to ask you one question, sister." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "Be honest with me." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Did you engage in a relationship with him?" And I said, "No, I never did."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, then I'm gonna talk to Mike and let me see what we do, and you know, I'll give you a call back." And we just kind of talked. I talked to him about. He asked me if I would be comfortable sharing the messages, and I was like, "Hell yeah, whatever we have left," because he deleted most of them. Whatever we have left, like you could see how.
Can we? Can I?
Around
Can
time,
I
what-
talk about those messages?
Around
real
what
quick?
time was
Is
this?
that
Though?
okay?
Around what time?
20,
That was
2019, right?
2019.
Yeah, like in
20
January,
okay,
because
go
we
ahead,
left
go
in
ahead,
February.
yeah.
So just real quick, so like those messages, you know, when she sent them over, so they were like, dude, he would send her pictures of herself on Facebook,
What?
but in
Oh
Messenger.
my God! Yes, I
That's-
forgot about that.
say that
Yeah.
again.
Okay.
Say that
He
again.
would send her pictures of
Yes.
herself on Messenger, and you know, so go ahead and yeah.
But he would tell me, Espy, this is why you're having issues. And oh my God. Ah, it irks my soul, dude.
Yeah, be honest,
Jeez.
open, share it.
he was like, this is why you're having issues in your marriage. You need to start, dressing up again. Because I had recently just gone through surgery. And with the surgery, I had like gained a bunch of weight. And it was just a bad place. And he was like, he would send me pictures like, you look good in this picture. And, I'll be like, thanks, Pastor. And he'd like, well, I mean, you have to start dressing up again and, remember who you are. And that's what I mean. He's so freaking sick. Like, he would twist it because,
And really, he wanted you to look good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because
On the down low, let's be real.
Look,
On the down low, let's
as
be
far
real.
as we've known David, he always told the sisters,
Yes.
the girls,
Yes.
don't you come in here looking like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dress up. You know what I'm saying?
Tore
Put on
up.
some
He say
lipstick.
tore
Don't
up.
be looking tore up.
Yeah.
He even had a meeting.
Point his stupid
One
finger.
Friday night, he had a meeting with all the girls to tell them,
yeah.
to give them a whole spiel
A sermon.
about why it's important for them to dress up. And the key was like, oh, don't you want to get married or whatever
that's
thing
so
like that.
sad, man. Like, that makes me cry. That's so sad because as women, we are, especially, like me, well, personally, I feel like the church was with a lot it was made of a lot of broken people,
Yeah.
right? And many women in there and men as well, but I mean us women were broken and we
Yeah.
come from a freaking broken home and we come from all of that brings so much damn insecurity into your life. And when he's telling, like, he digs into that, like he would dig into that. And you receive it because you're like, I do want to get married. I do want my family to work out. I do want my husband to stop fucking cheating. I do want that, So
I think
people, like,
I think
poke
that
at that.
Yeah.
I think that what David said, like, it rang true to us.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that's true. Like, the sister should dress up nice.
'Cause
You
you're
know what I'm saying?
single.
Yeah. But also, when it all comes to light at the end, it was really because
There's
he was trying to look at the
There's
girls.
a hidden
Preying on
motive
You know what I'm
behind
saying?
it.
But we didn't know that in the
Right.
moment until things kind of began to unravel.
So speaking of pictures being sent to you, your own pictures being sent to your messenger, broken women and underlying issues. One of our good friends reached out to you, right? When she was getting hit on by David, and it ended to the point she lost her life.
Whenever we ended up leaving, Anthony was still not home, and everything had already come out. But I don't remember. I think I talked to you about it, but we never like I just kind of shared with him and with Eric, and that was it. Like, that's where it ended for me, and I just kind of stopped going to church.
Yeah, but
and-
I wanna
and
I
did-
wanna I wanna go into that really quick. So I know it's touchy for you.
Yeah.
And but I think it's
Yeah.
important. So again, if you watch the other two episodes, I think on both of them, I'm not sure, but we did talk about the passing of Ashley.
Yeah.
And how when she left PTM, about a year later, she ended up dying through an overdose. So she was one of the girls that he was talking to inappropriately, and Espy was one of the ones that had actually spoken to her about that. So can you kind of talk
You guys
about that
worked
whole
together, right? You and
conversation?
Ashley worked
No,
together?
she
No?
lived with me
Oh, she lived
Yeah.
with you.
for
Okay.
a while.
Yeah.
Sh-
No, yeah, take your time. And there's tissues next to you right there. So.
she called me because even after I left, there were still certain people just shunned us, right? Like, they just didn't talk to us. And then other people, like her, she was one of the people that was still, very consistent. And she kind of showed up one day. She asked me if, what I was doing, whatever. She went to have dinner with me. And I can tell, because she asked me, she's like, why did you leave, honestly? And I didn't want to tell her because my thing was like, I didn't want to be a stepping stone in someone else's walk, right? So I didn't want to taint that. I didn't want to taint him, I guess, and ruin her walk. And I could tell that something was off. So I asked her, like, why, what's going on? And she told me, she's like, I want to tell you something, but I don't want you, like, I need you to promise not to say anything. I don't want you to share it. And I kept pushing her to tell me. So she finally told me that David was being weird.
God bless you guys. I want to first say how proud I am of Espy for stepping up and sharing her story with us. We have all seen how far that you have come, and we just want to say how proud and happy we are for you. As a ministry, we want to encourage you to attend our weekend retreat that we call an awakening. We like to refer to it as a day of deliverance. We truly believe God is able to heal and free people that are willing to confront areas of their past pain and hurt. So right below is an email address that you can contact to give you further information about the retreat and our ministry's small groups. Our prayer is for you to begin your healing journey soon. We look forward to hearing from you. God bless.